My name is Fabien. I'm a licensed advisor at New Zealand Shores Immigration Consultants. And today for this webinar, we have Prudence Thomson, who's a managing director at Accent Health Recruitment. And we're very happy to welcome Melissa McKendrick-Marano, a registered nurse originally from South California, who is going to share her experience of moving to New Zealand. Melissa, I understand you originally came to New Zealand in 2008, then went back to the US and came back. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience?
Yeah, so I originally came to New Zealand and I went to Hawke's Bay in 2008 in my mid-20s. I was working as an oncology nurse in the United States, and I took care of a patient who split her time between New Zealand and the States. And so I took care of her for about 7 months, and we got to talking about New Zealand, and she was just definitely one of the best patients I'd ever had, and very encouraging to just get on with it and go have an adventure. So that's what led me. I got in touch with Prue, and she helped with that process back then. And at that time, I was just, I think I'd only worked as a nurse for a year or two at that point. But yeah, so then she got me a job in Hawke's Bay at the DHB there. Spent about a year there, and then went back home for a bit, and I think it was just, we had a really good adventure then, but wasn't quite sure what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives. So yeah.
Right. So what sort of nursing do you do here in New Zealand? Is that oncology as well?
So Prue got me back into a job with hospice. And so I worked in the States, I worked a lot in oncology and with clinical education. So I got a job with hospice doing a little bit of kind of the clinical education and working on basically talking about palliative care to our GPs and things like that, because I think palliative care is very much a topic that doesn't get talked about a lot. So kind of helping to normalize that conversation with GPs at an earlier stage in the care continuum, rather than just waiting for the dire circumstances that, happens as we get older sometimes. So yeah, so it's been really fun.
Fantastic. Thanks, Melissa. Prudence, would you like to share your experience of bringing Melissa over to New Zealand? How did it all work out?
Absolutely. Well, in 2008, obviously, we didn't have a lot of Zoom and Skype, but we organised an interview for Melissa. She got her registration in New Zealand with the New Zealand Nurses Council and went through the process, had an interview with Hawke's Bay, and had a lovely working holiday. So we've had the pleasure of bringing Melissa to New Zealand as a working holiday nurse, and then 12 years later stayed in contact, which was great, and now she's working in a permanent position in Auckland. So the process was the same. Obviously technology's changed a wee bit, and she came out originally on a working holiday visa, and now she's out here with residency with her family in a slightly different role, but an absolute benefit to New Zealand having her here. We're very lucky.
I'm sure. You have a few questions for Melissa, I believe.
Yeah, I have. I guess if you think back to 2008, the process has changed slightly, but how was it getting your New Zealand registration with the Nurses Council?
I think back in 2008, I think it was a bit trickier than it was now. I think now there's a wonderful arrangement with the United States, so that the transference of licensure is much easier. So I basically, when I got my registration then, I know Prue, you're really helpful in helping me guide through the process there, but it really didn't take too long. And even now, I just basically was renewing my APC here, which was quite easy, especially coming from the States. It was easy, but yeah, the council here was wonderful to work with, and yeah, it honestly wasn't too hard.
Yep. And I know that last year when you came back, you had a couple of interviews with two different employers. I think I recall them being quite different. How would you summarize the experience having an interview for New Zealand?
Oh, it was, I think, again, it was all over Zoom, it was honestly right when Zoom was really starting to become quite normal for all of us, and we were all getting used to it. But no, I think it was great. It's lovely to be able to see people face to face, compared in 2008, I think I had a phone interview. But yeah, I think it's nice because you can really communicate your experience and what you can help, bring in addition to the jobs here and to the companies that you're working for. Everyone I met was so lovely. And honestly, I think that's a huge reason why we wanted to come back, is the friendliness and openness of Kiwis are very, very welcoming. So I found that both interviews were with the different companies I applied with were great. Yeah.
Great.
What was your family's reaction, Melissa, to you wanting to come back to New Zealand, your family and friends? How did they take that?
Oh my goodness. It was a lot of like, oh, that's a great idea, but you're not actually going to do it. We have 2 children. So I think there was a lot of just, everyone was really bummed to lose us in Southern California. We had a very tight community. But for us, I think with 2 young children, the decision to come back here was, there were so many reasons we wanted to come back. And I think it's being here now, it's really proven to be everything that we wanted in that way, as far as you have a much more relaxed lifestyle. Our kids have such a relaxed lifestyle. I can't tell you the comparison with going to primary school here and primary school in Southern California. And it is just relaxed. There's a lot less just stress in a lot of ways. I think there's a level of stress you get used to living in Southern California, which isn't always bad, but I think here you just have that off your shoulders, and it's just a little bit slower and more enjoyable. Everybody has a little bit of a different work-life balance. And so, it's been really, with kids, it was kind of a way that we could kind of take a step back and slow down and really make the most out of life, because I think working in oncology, you realize how fast and fleeting it is. So everyone was fun, but also I'm really thankful to have family and friends that are really supportive of us. And so now we're just hoping, waiting for those borders to open so we can have some visitors.
And how did you find the nurses react to you coming? A nurse from America, was it? Did they find that they were excited to see you?
Oh, lovely. I think just kind of what I said before is everyone was very welcoming here, and just what can we do for you? Do you need help finding a place to live? I can tell you about this neighborhood or that neighborhood. These are the best places to go. Go for a holiday, and people really take you under their wing and are quite welcoming. And I think that was a huge reason, again, why we moved here, and knowing, and even for my children, it's the same vibe at school with their, with the classmates and teachers. Everyone is just, it's been very seamless, and my kids are thriving, and adjusting here it was really, really quite easy in that way with being accepted. And as long as you have, I think anybody who's really interested in moving over here, you already have, the desire to learn from others and to be open to new experiences. So that's one piece of advice, is just be open. Don't come here thinking you have it all figured out or you're the best at this or that. Be open to learning from others. And then, people will be really eager to learn from you as well, so that you have a really great cohesive team in whatever job you get placed in.
Great. And so thinking back about working at home versus here, how would you describe sort of the work-life balance?
Oh, I think it's different in a way, because I think, work anywhere, you have your stressful days, but for the most part, I find it much more relaxed here. And I think the biggest thing that tripped me out was over Christmas time here. It's literally everybody goes on holiday. And you have half everything's just a little bit like, there's just not as many people on the road. There's not as many people in the hospital. It's just kind of, it's normal and it's to be expected, but it's not something that happens in the States for us during Christmas, because it's, busy Christmas holidays, etc. But it's not, it's just kind of cool how a country just pauses in a way and takes some time to spend with their family and friends and get away. So I think it's, I enjoyed that part of it.
Melissa, what would you say, if anything, what is hard about living in New Zealand versus back in the US? What's hard and what's really the best about the move you've made?
All right, so I think the hardest parts about the move, for us, it's just been not having like our people and just going through just normal life stuff. You have challenges sometimes and you're like, oh, just want to go to coffee with my best mate, or I really want to hug my dad. Those are the hardest parts, but that part is, I think, so much easier this time around because we have FaceTime and all those things. And I, call my family and friends regularly just on the way to work. And that's really helps make that a lot easier. And I think, yeah, and I think just adjusting to the fact that you don't have, in the States, it is like, you do have so much consumerism around you, which makes your life easier in a way, because you're like, oh, I can run to the grocery store, I can run to a grocery store, I can run to Target or, you know, the mall at 9 o'clock at night to go pick something up. And here, everyone's like, 6 o'clock, we're going home, businesses are closed. So you have to plan ahead a little bit, which is not a bad thing. It's what we wanted, is that slower pace. And that's kind of what comes with it, is the conveniences are not always like that, but that's okay. Yeah, and I think those are just probably the hardest things. And then the best things, again, are just the fact that, you know, you have that slower pace, and people take the time. If you're lost, like, someone will literally stop and tell you, like, a stranger will give you, you know, a couple minutes to get you routed down the right way. And, you know, I live in Auckland, and some people think Auckland is just so busy and fast, and people aren't, you know, it's different from one part of New Zealand to the next. And it's more hustle bustle here, but still, I find people are very kind and will take time for you. Yeah, and are considerate. I've noticed driving here, everyone drives so slow, and that was like getting used to it coming from Southern California. But in a way, it's nice. They let people over, nobody honks. It's like, and I think it's just a consideration that Kiwis have with each other. And I know, sure, I mean, there's not like a bunch of perfect people running around, but overall, it's just a really refreshing community in that way.
So it sounds like, yeah, obviously no regrets on the move. What would be your advice for someone wanting to do this in the near future?
Oh, I definitely do your homework. This isn't something, if you're planning to come here, it's not, you know, if you're in your 20s and you can do a working holiday, like, awesome, you can come try it out for a year. And, you know, if you don't have kids, it's something you could probably pick up your backpack and go and just do something like that. But me, you know, me and my partner, we're in our late 30s and we have 2 kids. So it was a much more be planned out, think about, try to connect to, you know, groups online and any expat groups, depending on what country you're from. Sometimes it helps if you know a friend of a friend, because that friend of a friend of a friend will probably become a really good connection to you and feels like a bit of home. And I think if you're coming from a place that's really warm, consider whether or not you want to go move to Dunedin or not, and think about temperatures and what you're used to, because there is a lot of change, and what you want to do with your spare time. What do you want to be close to? The South Island is absolutely stunning. I'm from Southern California. I didn't want to be really, really cold all the time, and it's not really, really cold all the time down there. I was in Christchurch last week, and it's still really nice. But you have so much skiing and all that stuff at your fingertips in the South Island, which is so awesome for winter. And then summertime stunning down there too. We're more into the ocean and surfing, and we don't want to wear full hoods and booties all year round. So we're up in Auckland. We're closer to some of the beaches up here in Northland, which is a little more similar temperature to what we're used to in California. Do your homework, download some cities on your phone, watch the weather and see what it is so you can get used to that, because I think that could be a planning thing. Save some money, think about whether or not, we ended up bringing a crate over, and it was well worth it with some of our favorite things, because some things are difficult to find here. And so, you know, bring some of your favorite things from home if you can. Yeah, and I think just do your research. It's something that's so worth it. But don't just like flippantly be like, I'm going to move to New Zealand with all my family and without doing any research. So yeah, and we ended up in our neighborhood we are, because just talking to a friend of a friend, and we love it here. It's beautiful. We're out in the bush, but still, you know, 30 minutes into the city. Yeah.
I see what you mean about doing your research. It's key to a successful migration, so you don't end up in a place that doesn't necessarily meet your requirements or your lifestyle. Social media, we see from a lot of our clients, they find some valuable information on social media. They do find some less valuable information. There's a lot of incorrect facts out there.
Yeah,
very true.
But a lot of migrant communities will be very supportive once you land here. So it's important to make those connections before you leave. Prudence, we do need more Melissas to come into New Zealand. How do we attract this skill set? How hard or how easy is it? Has there been a shift from the pre-COVID era?
Yeah, look, with COVID, there's been more vacancies. We've got an aging population. We've got a population where patients are staying alive longer and later in life. We've also got technology and pharmacology means that there's more intervention and more investigative and more treatment into conditions. So we need more medical staff. We need GPs, midwives, nurses, physios, OTs, anaesthetic technicians, radiology, sonography. We do have a big need in New Zealand still, so we need lots more Melissas. Yep.
We're recording this this story early August 2021, and to date there are still some severe border restrictions to enter New Zealand. However, most medical professionals can get a border exemption and a critical purpose visa, as it is currently known, to come into New Zealand, take up employment, and then we can apply for longer term visas and plan the road ahead towards residence. Anything else you'd like to add, either of you? Maybe some advice, a bit more advice on people wanting to take the next step?
Yeah, look, I think the time that it takes to get your visa, NZ Shores can take that stress and time away. You're ticking off, 5 of your top stresses: moving jobs, moving house, moving family, moving countries, etc. So one thing you can do is put your job search in Accent Health Recruitment's hands, and our hospitals pay us to recruit. I've been recruiting for 24 years, and put the visa in the hands of NZ Shores, because they can take all that headache and stress away from you. It's not rocket science, but there's so many tricks involved. I remember when Melissa was getting her photos done and they wouldn't accept her photos, and it was one of those small things that NZ Shores takes away by saying, put your hair behind your ears. I think that was the case, or away from your fringe. But yeah, I mean, it made a big difference, I think, NZ Shores. Yeah.
Yes, it is. The thing is, if you prepare yourself, it will be a stressful time getting everything together, but that's where for me, having Prudence and having Accent on board and helping set me through, and then, an immigration consultant like New Zealand Shores, it does take so much stress away, because you're on the right path and you have someone telling you, yes, this is what you have to do. Because when you do go on to apply for your visa, it does sometimes feel somewhat ambiguous. And you're like, which one do I apply for? Am I doing this right? Because your whole future is hinging on, getting your visa and things like that. So it definitely is a very wise move to connect, with Accent and with New Zealand Shores. And I think I couldn't recommend that more, because it is. I'm a very low stress person, and I remember being very stressed out at times. And Prudence was like, it's okay, you're doing fine. We're getting there, one step at a time.
Yeah.
So
thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure a lot of prospective migrants out there will find this interview very valuable. Thanks again for dedicating some time to share your experiences, and keep in touch.
Lovely.
Thanks so much.
Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Fabien.
Bye, guys.
Bye.